All right, I took my highlighter and I highlighted these two lines. Why did I highlight them? One of them is called the midsegment. That's new. What's new for today? But midsegment is formed by the two midpoints. We've talked about the word midpoint a lot in this class. The midpoint cuts the line in half or bisects the line. So this midsegment right here has a few properties that we need to know. The main ones are, it's this one, the fact that the midsegment is parallel to the side of the triangle, always. And then also that the midsegment is half the size of that line it's parallel to. All right, so this midsegment, it may not always look like it just because sometimes it's hard to tell on here, but it is all the midsegment, or the line that's on the inside of the triangle that's parallel to the side of the triangle, is always going to be half the length of the side of that triangle. So yeah, we're going to use those two properties, fill these out, and yeah, you will see this type of problem again. So just make sure you understand what's going on here. So I'm going to use, I have two different highlighters. I only have two, but I'm going to use them to just identify the parallel lines. So like JK is going to be parallel to YZ. And, I mean, most of you guys can look at this and be able to tell, like, which one is parallel. So I think it just helps to have it highlighted, especially for the notes. And then XZ, I'm going to take a different color highlighter. If you don't have a different color highlighter, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, but I would just not highlight it, because if you have the whole thing highlighted in the same color, it doesn't really help you. You could just pick one of the midsegments to highlight, if that helps. But XZ is this orange line, and it is highlighted in, well, it's highlighted in orange, and it is parallel to KL. You could also say LK, but just make sure you can identify that. I don't have a third highlighter. I do have a different colored pen, so I think I'm going to use this. But if you don't have a different colored pen or something that's different color, it's not a huge deal. You can just leave it as white. But this one, this JL, is parallel to the bottom of the triangle, right there. So JL is parallel to that. I'm not going to write that because it doesn't ask it here, but they are parallel. You could always just like make it a little darker with your pencil as well. That could work. All right, and then things that you need to make sure you realize and that you know that this XY is going to be half of the length of the line it's parallel to, the midsegment, which is KL. So it's really just, can you identify the parallel lines? And can you know that the shorter one is half the length of the longer one? That's kind of the main idea of what we're talking about today. And then for these red ones, or these horizontal lines here, so JL and XZ, this line, I'm going to put a little congruent symbol there, just so you know, is also going to be congruent to, so like these three segments are congruent to each other. Since K is a midpoint that cuts it in half, because this particular triangle has three midsegments on it, notice the difference between this triangle and this triangle. This one only has one midsegment drawn. This one has three midsegments drawn, which kind of looks like a little triangle inside a big triangle, which is essentially what it is. It just, all the midpoints are connected. But JL is the same as XK and KZ. So things that I want to make sure that you guys realize. The ones that are related are the parallel ones. So you see how, like, these yellow ones, they aren't, like, they're side links. They're not related with the red ones. And the orange ones are not related with the red. Like, that's kind of why I have different colors. Because you can't look at it and think, oh, JY is the same as YL. They're not the same. You're looking and comparing the parallel lines. So that's one important thing here. KL is, so yeah, two of these. So two of these is equal to XY. If you multiply the shorter one by 2, you get this one. It just makes sure you guys realize that the midsegments are the things that are related to the parallel. Like, the parallel lines are the things that are related. So yellow does not go with orange. Red does not go with yellow. Yeah, just make sure, if you understand that, then you'll be good. All right, I'm going to put a little congruent symbol on this angle Z. The second to last section of the Delta Math today talks about, it's pretty much this section. You will have to identify corresponding angles. I don't know if the picture's the exact same, but things that I want you to look at. Okay, look at the yellow line. So yours probably aren't yellow, but for mine, look at the yellow line. So Y, Z, and JK. Look at those on your paper. And I want you to realize that those two are parallel lines. So these yellow lines are parallel to each other. This red line is the transversal that goes through those two parallel lines. So that would make this one corresponding to that. The thing that's confusing about this is there's all these other crazy looking lines. Like, act like these orange lines aren't there. Act like this line isn't there. We're only looking at these two yellow lines and this one red line, XZ, that runs through it. Okay? So these are corresponding. Therefore, they are going to be congruent. So this angle JKX is congruent to YZX. Those are the same as each other. There's one other set of corresponding angles that go with Z. See, I'm going to pause this real quick and see if you can figure out which one that would be. So these red lines are also parallel. So, and then this yellow is what goes through it. So if you're just looking at this one yellow line, these two red lines, that creates corresponding angles at Y, angle YLJ as well. I think the angle part is the most confusing part of this, which is, it's a very minuscule part of what we're going to see with mid-segments, but you do need to know that. So we've got JKX and YLJ. And let's go down here to, these go super fast. I'm going to do 6 and 7 with you. You're going to do 8 on your own. We've got these two lines here. So these are parallel, DE and EC. It doesn't say that on here. I probably should have written it on here, but I don't have it. But just know DE is the mid-segment. It says that BC, or DE is 5, and it's asking you what BC is. So you just have to double it to get 10. That's all you have to realize, is that BC is twice as big, I'm struggling, as DE. All right, and then same idea for number 7. It's just a little more complicated because you actually have to set up an equation. You are given the mid-segment. You are given the line it's parallel to, the side of the triangle, and every time, like, I do a test or quiz or something, I see people set this up, and they put x plus 9 equal to 2x minus 3. That does not make sense. Do those lines look like they're equal to each other? No, they're not the same. So make sure you don't forget that this is half the length of that. So in order to set them equal, we need to double that smaller one. You need to make it twice as big. So 2 of these would equal 1 of these. So if it helps to write this up here, YW equals 2 QRs. And that's what we're writing down here. All right, and then we can solve. X plus 9 equals 4x minus 6. When I distribute, don't forget to multiply the 2 and the negative 3. That's the main thing I see people forgetting. We're going to subtract x on both sides. We're also going to add 6 on both sides. So 15 equals 3x. Divide by 3. X equals 5, it says find the length of the two segments. So if I plug that back in, this one's going to be 7. QR is 7, because 2 times 5 is 10, minus 3 is 7. And YW is 14. All right, I'm going to pause this real quick, and I want you to, I mean, it's the exact same thing as this. You just have to figure out, okay, which one is which and label it on here, and then set up an equation. Solve for x. The main thing, make sure you set it up correctly. There are 2 ways you can actually set this up. You can either cut this one in half or double this one. I think it's easy just to do the same thing and always multiply the smaller one by 2, but you do whatever you want. You should get x equals 7. When you plug it back in, you get 33 and 66. You may not have done that because it doesn't say to do that, but that's always a good way to check your answer. All right, and that's all it is.